started here, welcome to another QGive webinar. I am super excited about today's topic. I know that we have a lot of people dropping in, what type of events they have coming up, and this is a big topic for this time of year. Starting to plan some of those big events. Maybe you have it coming up here in the spring or the summer or the fall. Maybe you're getting a really big head start. So what we're going to be talking about today is fundraising event planning, a step-by-step guide to running successful events. So before we get started here, for those that are unfamiliar with QGive, we are an online fundraising platform. We have solutions for all size nonprofits, including year-round fundraising tools, text giving, peer-to-peer fundraising, and auction tools. You are at the center of everything we do, and our goal is to make fundraising as easy as possible so you can raise more money online. If you're interested in learning more, please visit us at www.qgive.com. Couple house notes. We will be recording this webinar today, and I will send you a video recording of the session as well as a copy of the slides. So be on the lookout for that tomorrow morning. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. The best way to ask questions is in the Q&A option in Zoom. I'll try to answer all of these questions at the end of the presentation. It is easier for me to track it through the Q&A option, but if you do drop it in the chat, then I'll make sure that I go back to it and make sure that I answer it at the end. And if you have a Twitter, please share your highlights and takeaways from today's session with hashtag QGiveWebinar, and make sure to follow us at QGive. So a little bit about myself. I have been with QGive over 4 years now and a marketing professional for over 6. When you're having fun, time sure does fly by. As my area of expertise is really my passion in digital marketing and optimizing the user experience, which is just a very fancy way to say that I try to make your life easier when you're trying to learn more about QGive online. I also have 3 animals. I have 1 dog and 2 cats. They're absolutely a handful, and they have the zoomies all the time, but I certainly love them, and I enjoy my time when I am around them. So what are we going to be looking at today? We are going to take a look at the core elements of fundraising event planning, and I'm going to provide you with actionable tips and takeaways to help you run a successful event. Now, there are a lot of factors that go into event planning, including the type of event that you're running, the size of your organization, and how your organization activates and utilizes your volunteers. All of these factors will have an effect on how you plan. So use the tips that we talk about today as as your guidance, and adjust your plan accordingly to all of those factors that I just said. My goal is to take you from this feeling into this. And we're going to do this by covering first how your organization can create an event planning committee and how you can provide them with enough resources to feel confident in their planning. 2, how to create a communication plan and when to start outreaching to your audience. 3, we're going to talk about tips for different styles of fundraising events, including on-site, virtual, and hybrid events. We'll take a look at how you can increase funds raised at your event. And we're also going to talk about how you can get the most out of your fundraising tools. So let's start. Let's start with building your fundraising committee. If your organization uses dedicated volunteers for your committees, we have a couple of great tips for you to help find and retain quality volunteers, and then what you can do to maximize their potential for each of the positions that you've chosen them for. If your organization only has paid staff or includes some volunteer help on your committees, these tips can be helpful to build your internal staff team, and will also provide some best practices to help educate them on the most recent trends that we're seeing in the event space. If your organization is using volunteers, I highly recommend that you plan well in advance of your event. It's not unreasonable to have your main chair and other key chairs selected a year out from your event. If you have dedicated staff to the event, so that you have paid and maybe you have a couple of volunteers that are helping out, you'll most likely need less time to do this, but the more time that you give your team to plan, the more time you have to create a great event experience. So when we're building your event committee, you'll need to start by identifying the key positions to fill. Obviously, there's the chair and the co-chair. Those are very important to lead your event fundraising. But what else? There's sponsorship, there's logistics, there's volunteers and marketing chairs. All of those are very important to help head up those different activities that you're looking to do. Others that you can consider during this process are an auction chair if you're hosting an auction component to your event. An event chair is an entertainment chair, excuse me. That would help with facilitating finding people to help to come to the event to provide entertainment, as well as any food and beverage chairs as well. So some of those are big pieces that can get overwhelming if you have a lot of different moving parts. So those different types of chairs can help alleviate any of those. So once we do have the chairs identified, you need to start filling those positions. And when you start recruiting, I understand that it may feel a little lost on where to focus your efforts. If you've hosted an event before, get ahead of planning for next year by having a succession plan in place for committee chairs. You'll want to lean on your current committee to help identify individuals that are fit for their role and then have them nominate those successors. If this is your first time hosting your event or you're rebuilding your event committee, start your recruitment efforts by attending networking events or joining a local civic organization like Kiwanis or Rotary. These are great ways to meet new people and make connections with people in your community. Another area to find committee members is to work with local businesses like hospitals, churches, schools, and other businesses in the area. These institutions often have staff that would like to help you. And if you're already supporting these types of institutions, they're likely a very good place to recruit new members since they're already indicated that they want to help your organization. You can also try and reach out to past participants that fundraised on behalf of your organization, whether that was through a peer-to-peer campaign or a crowdfunding campaign. These are individuals that have indicated interest in helping you raise money. So it is more than likely that they would like to join your event committee that you have to make an even greater impact. Other things that you can look at, current or past volunteers as well. And you can even dive into your donor base and see if they're interested in making a larger impact at your organization. All in all, once we do identify our committee, we need to make sure that we empower them to know exactly what they're doing to make a great event and start planning. And the way that we empower our committee is we want to provide them with the necessary tools and resources to be successful. Both volunteers and paid staff will find it helpful in their job to do the best to their ability that they have with training and resources. Train volunteers every year on what they need to do, even if they are returning volunteers. Paid staff and volunteers both can benefit from additional resources that focus on fundraising event best practices to help them keep up with current trends and the ever-changing dynamic of events. QGIve is a great resource for this. We have a lot of free resources that you can download. We have all of the webinars that we host, as well as all of our blog articles and everything else that we provide. So you can go ahead and check us out too at www.qgive.com. We have a lot of great resources to help out on that side. And then training and coaching your committee members will help prevent burnout. That's the biggest thing that we want to prevent during the whole entire process. We want to encourage them to help us again, right? So there's nothing more frustrating than not understanding what you need to do and as a result, not succeeding. So providing this different position training and all these best practices will not only benefit you, but it will help them as well to understand exactly what they need to do. In addition, you're going to want to make sure that volunteers have all of your mission information. Experienced members may just need a brush up, but any new or inexperienced members will need help getting their head wrapped around their responsibilities. This can look like committee meetings to describe each role, or having those individual meetings with the newer committee members to make sure that they understand exactly what they need to do. Finally, make sure you thank and appreciate your committee and give them tasks that keep them engaged. They're here for a reason. They're passionate about your organization. So give them things that they're going to enjoy doing, as well as thanking them for all of the hard work that they're doing on behalf of your organization. If they don't think that they'll succeed or don't receive consistent and clear communication, they're most likely going to drop out. So this is the key one of the keys to the success of your event is making sure that your volunteers understand what they signed up for and what exactly they need to do on behalf of your organization. Once we have our committee members empowered, so we've trained them, we've given them resources that they need, it's time to let them start planning. The team is here to help with all aspects of your event planning. Once you've established that fundraising goal that you have and your event budget, your first task is to ask for them for feedback about the type of event that you're going to do, whether that's in person, virtual, or hybrid, where you should be hosting the event, and then how you should accept registrations. This team will have a wide range of experience and perspectives. They will be very helpful in generating new ideas for your event, as well as providing insights into their varied experiences that they've had with other events, or if they've ever been on another event committee as well. One important note: while it's good to generate buy-in from your volunteer committee, or at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you are making the key decisions. You're not going to make every volunteer happy, and you just have to own those critical pieces of your event. So make sure that you're clear on what decisions that the volunteer committee can make versus what needs to be approved by your staff. So step 2, we're making key event choices. These major items on your event planning list should be figured out sooner rather than later. I mentioned earlier that a year out is not crazy to get your chair and your co-chair together. While some of the timelines are moving based on what type of event that you're hosting, you want to make sure that you're looking at these items as soon as you get them in the door and having them committed as possible so that no surprises pop up. All of the things that we're going to talk about are critical to the success of your event. So make sure that you figure these well out in advance. So hosting an event is a huge, huge undertaking. And there are a lot of moving parts and pieces, and sometimes it can feel like a ton of chaos. Chaos can be organized with proper planning and a list of actions. So as I stated earlier, start early, the sooner the better. Ensure that when you have your committee, your subcommittees understand their responsibilities, and then also create check-in points with each of them. So for example, you have your marketing subcommittee, right? And they're gonna start doing the event communication, they're gonna start creating the messaging around what the event is. Make sure that they understand where they should be promoting, what the messaging should look like, when you need that communication plan, what's approved, what's not approved, and making sure that they have those different check-in points and responsibilities understood so that it's not a surprise when something pops up if it pops up, that check-in point, they're not surprised by what's coming. When you are hosting these big meetings that you have, whether that's in the big committee meeting plan or the subcommittee, have a dedicated note taker that sends post-meeting wrap-up emails with what was discussed, what needs to be done, and who is responsible for what. Some of these meetings can go on for hours, especially if it's your big committee meeting. So a note taker is crucial to make sure that everyone remembers what was discussed and what needs to be done. What's your rain plan? So if your event is supposed to be outside, what is your backup plan? This is crucial, and you don't want to figure that out the night before. That it would be a travesty. So make sure that you have a plan for what happens if it does start to rain. And create a crisis communication plan as well. This goes along with rain plan, but what if there is another event outside of your control that pops up? Make sure that you have that in your wheelhouse to make sure that you can communicate any crises in case that the event has to be postponed. And then obviously take time to relax. The event planning side of things is really a big undertaking. So you want to make sure that you're not burning yourself out either, and that you have time for yourself to relax during the entire process. It's going to be a lot harder to plan everything if you're just burnt out and you're not into the passion of the event. So make sure to take your time to relax. So let's dive in a little bit to the different types of events that we can host and then what we can do for each of those. So when planning an on-site event, this is going to be the longest versus like a virtual event, right? This is the part that'll take the longest out of the entire processes. There are a lot of moving parts here, and a lot of the on-site planning will take a lot of time, some time to accomplish based on where you're located. This checklist should be something you work and complete on as soon as you can, as some of these items will most likely take longer than others. For example, identifying and securing your event venue. In your planning, do keep in mind that the reservation process for these may take time and that you have a backup plan in place. And also, some event venues require you to apply and have it secured a year out. So, going back to making sure that we secure our chair and co chair early, identifying our event venue and getting that secured before our event is crucial, and that we have the proper time to put our planning in place. Next, on-site events, make sure that you apply for any permits that you need. You want to verify that you're in compliance with all of the state, local, and national laws for your event. So make sure to take a look at those, especially if like you're hosting an online raffle. There's many things that go into that, so make sure that you're in compliance with all of those different pieces. Find and book your entertainment and vendors very early for the date as well. The entertainment piece is crucial to what you need on site, but there's a lot of different entertainment. For the food and for the vendors, specifically for food and drinks, those are crucial pieces for your on-site event, right? So make sure that you have those locked in early and that you have that menu worked out and run through all the logistics with that. Identify and secure the technology needs for your event. So on site, if you're going to do a screencast, you're going to want to have a projector as well as a laptop that you can plug in to go through any slides that you have or play a recording. For check-in, we need to make sure that we have our laptops, we have our Wi-Fi and everything that goes in there. Make sure that we have electricity wherever we are too. So make sure that you're working through all of these things and thinking about all of the technology needs that you'll need on site. On that note, reach out and secure any item donations for your event. So this can include any of the technology that you have on site. That could be laptops, it could be the Wi-Fi equipment. But if you're also hosting a raffle, make sure that you're reaching out and getting item donations for that, as well as auction items too, if you have an auction component. Identify and secure your sponsorships as well. Another big piece to raising money for our on-site events is making sure that we have those sponsorships in place. And then finally, select your online registration tool and create your online form. So whatever tool that you use to accept registrations for your event, make sure that you've identified all the options out there and that you've seen what it looks like, and then start getting those set up so that your staff, you can start accepting registration as soon as possible. So while we just went through our on-site, so let's talk a little bit about the virtual checklist. This will generally take a shorter amount of time, but you still want to be well prepared. You want to create the best experience for your online attendees, and the best way to do that is with proper planning. There's going to be some similar items on your virtual checklist as the on-site checklist. Some of those being the technology that you need to secure, the item donations that go along with your event, if you have sponsorships that you're offering, as well as your online registration tools. So there's a couple of things that are going to be mirrored between the on-site and the virtual component, but some additional things that you need to put on your checklist for virtual include what streaming service are you going to use. For virtual, we can use things like YouTube or Facebook or Zoom. There's a plethora of them out there, so make sure that you do your research and you understand how each of them can be utilized for your event. Decide where you're going to host and record your event. So you don't need a venue for a virtual event, but where do you want to host it? Where do you want to record the event? Or if you're going to do it live, where are you going to do it live? This could be on site at your organization in one of your offices. You can record it at one of your staff members' homes. Just make sure that you have a venue in mind and you get it booked for yourself, however that looks. And if you're going to have entertainment, you're going to want to coordinate with them with one, that it is a virtual event, and then make sure that they understand what you expect of them. So are they going to pre-record the entertainment? So you just have to press a space bar, to start playing the entertainment, or do you want them to prepare for a live performance on stream? Make sure that you are using this technology to engage your attendees. It can be very interesting to get our attendees engaged, so make sure that you're thinking through the different engagement options that you have for your attendees for your virtual events. Now let's move to hybrid. Hybrid events combine in-person events with the virtual components to increase the potential number of attendees. In-person events are great because they create that memorable experience with the attendee at the event. And virtual is great for those that really can't attend in person. So if you want to offer a wider audience to come to your events, I truly suggest hybrid. I really enjoy having both of those on-site and virtual. For each component, so for the in-person side of it and the virtual side, you'll want to use the checklist that we just walked through. Those will help guide you for those different components that you have going on. The major difference is that you now need to think through the hybrid aspects of the event. It's kind of like a joint chiefs of staff. Your organizations needs to think of how you're going to combine both styles of event into one. And you can have a committee chair that is specifically focused on figuring out the logistics for the hybrid side of things. They think of, like I said, think of them as your joint chief of staff of how everything is going to work together. Some things that you're going to want to think about are how are you going to stream the event? So this is being more of where is my equipment going to go? What equipment do I need? Where am I going to put this equipment on site so that it can properly see everything for the virtual component of things? When I'm creating my floor plan, where is that equipment in conjunction to the flow of the audience and any lines that we have? So making sure that you're eliminating any issues that could potentially happen with the virtual side of the event when you're hosting a hybrid event. And then also thinking through what are the best ways to engage virtual and the in-person attendees at the same time. So entertainment is obviously a great way, but is there any other like fun game that everyone can participate in? Is there any type of like user-generated content that you can create that they can go maybe on a Facebook event page or something like that? So thinking through those different ways on how to engage so that you can get all of your attendees having a great event experience. So step 3, the countdown is begun. It's time to start getting the event communications going. Once you set your date and location, you are ready to start telling your supporters and start sending out save the dates. So you don't need full information of where your event's going to be to send a save the date. One of those examples being that you can create a Facebook event page and you can invite people to say, hey, we're going to look at a potential event on this date and this time. We're still working on the venue. But sending out those save the dates early will help reserve your attendees so that they don't book anything else on that date. You want to make sure to send those ahead of time, maybe about 6 months out before your event, so that they can get it on their calendars and they don't overbook themselves by accident. So when we're getting the word out, so we're creating our communication plan, it should be on the top of that event planning. So once we get all of those major checklist items, the next thing is we've got to think through the event communication. When you're creating your plan, make sure to think about a few of these things that we're talking about. Focus on your mission and what the event will help fund. How will you spotlight what impacts the money you raise will do in your event communications? So we talk about focusing on why. Why are we hosting an event and why should someone attend? So focusing on the event experience and what the funds raised will provide for your constituents will only increase the attendance that you have. Make sure to take a multi-channel marketing approach. This will spread your mission far and wide, and we'll dive a little bit into what that means a little bit later, but make sure that you're sending all of your communications through a multi-channel marketing approach. Identify the channels your donors prefer. So again, we'll dive into this a little bit later, but the segmentation piece of this, making sure that you know what preferences your donors prefer to receive communication. Is that email? Is that social media? Is that through a letter? So we'll dive a little bit more into that. Use visual storytelling to connect your donors with your mission and encourage them to register. So this goes back to focusing on your mission and being able to tie what your event is going to accomplish and then helping the donor connect with what you're trying to communicate. And the easiest way to do that is through an image or video. So use visual storytelling to make the greatest impact and encourage people to register for your event. And as I mentioned before, make sure that you send your save a dates ahead of time to get it on your donors' calendars. And electronic is just fine if you're going to, you can use Facebook events too. So here are some tips for sending your communications. So you want to maximize your staff's time and focus on what will generate the most engagement with your event. So first and foremost, create donor lists and segment your audience based on their preferred channel. So QGive dived into all things event communication with our generational giving study. So we dove into what channels your donors prefer, and then we dived into this, like the specific age groups of what they are. So make sure that you're diving into your own donor data, identify what your donor's preferred method of communication is, and then send your communications through there. So some of these things can look like if they've previously attended one of your events, kind of like a recurring donor, and then based on their giving history as well. So make sure that you're building out different types of segmented donor lists so that you're communicating to each audience based on this past history. You can also look at your donor data outside of building these lists to identify what the best channels are for your nonprofit. So do direct mail, do phone calls and flyers perform better, or do the more digital approach to this work, email, text message, and social media. So make sure that you're focusing on these efforts and that you're segmenting these communications to each audience that you have. About 4 weeks out from the event, we're going to want to start a steady cadence of communication. So we sent the save a date about 6 months ago. You're going to send check-ins as things start to unwind, like you finalize your venue, you finalize some other pieces like entertainment that you can send out. But about 4 weeks out, we should have everything in our event planning to a point to where we can start doing a steady cadence so that we can increase registrations and showcase our mission as well as encourage all of those registrations. And you'll want to include important questions ahead of time as well, just so that you can get ahead of them. So again, we're going to send our invites through a multi-channel marketing approach. Make sure to send out your call for volunteers as well at around this time to help manage your event on site and virtually. And ensure that you are properly preparing your day of volunteers. So as they are signing up and getting prepared, we want to make sure that we are providing them with the necessary tools to understand, one, where they're supposed to go for the event, and two, what their main tasks are the day of. So this is like arming your committees, you're arming your day of volunteers with all the information that they need to have a successful event with you. And then one important volunteer that I always like to make note of, especially if you have the hybrid component that you're running, is finding a volunteer that is savvy with technology. So they understand, and having them dedicated to it so that you have someone that, one, knows how to do all the streaming, they make sure all of the cameras are working appropriately, as well as monitoring all of the comments that are coming through on the virtual side, and that they can set up anything else that comes along. Step 4. Now we are about a week ahead of our event. And what you need to start doing here is start testing all of your technology. You're going to want to start doing a practice run of your event. You're going to want to make sure all of your staff are trained, as well as your volunteers. So this is the final piece. We're right ahead. We're setting up and we're coordinating. We're running through all of the different scenarios of our event. The best way that you want to sort of go through this is to pretend that you're a registrant to help build your layout and overall experience. So test your technology, make sure that the laptops are working, the Wi-Fi equipment is working. You want to do that for on-site, and then you want to run a streaming test with a virtual component. Make sure that the video is clear when you're recording and that it looks okay on your laptops that you have on site. Run through any specific example scenarios that you've run into the past so that your team knows how to handle any problems the day of the event. This includes on-site, if you have a checkout component, like for the auction side of things, make sure that you run through that. Where is your beverages? Is the line? Like, what happens if the line gets too long? And the same with food. Make sure that you're running through all of the scenarios so that you can provide the best experience on site. Provide all of those responsibilities to volunteers and make sure that they have instructions on what to do and where to go, and if they need to wear any special attire. The one that I always like to reference for myself, my personal experience, we have a local venue here that does an event, and basically they call us all a week ahead of time, and they have specific handouts that they give us. They give us detailed instructions on everything that we need to do, where to go, and then they give us our attire that we need to wear. And then they also give us a layout of the event, and then they highlight where we have to go. So that's very, very helpful for us, for the volunteers that are going to help out, to make sure that they know exactly what to do and where they need to go. And of course, make sure your staff members know what to do. If you're using on-site technology, you might be using a bidding software for your auction component. Or if you're looking to do a live stream and do a donation ask during the event itself, make sure that your staff members know and that you have backup to all that. And make sure that you're running through all of those key on-site functions to make sure that the event is running smoothly. As you're looking through the event layout, walk through the event as an attendee. Is it easy to get to the bathroom? If there's a long line of the beverages, like what's the other route? Make sure that you have all the emergency exits planned out as well. Make sure that everyone knows exactly where that is. All right, we're here. We're on the day of the event. Remain calm. You can do it. Let's talk about a couple of things that you need to think about to make sure that your event on site goes as smoothly as possible. You've practiced for this day. Everything that you've done has been in preparation to this point. Everything will not go perfectly, but just be prepared to handle any issues that pop up. Stay calm under pressure and be flexible. A few tips. The first one is create a list of to-dos in an event schedule to ensure that nothing gets missed. What this really helps with too is also having an event binder, so that whoever is managing the event on site has a list of everything in that binder so that you can keep track of everything. And what you would want to put in that binder are site maps, vendor phone numbers for any key staff and volunteers, have a run of the event schedule, extra copies of any of the program scripts that you have, and that you make sure that any sponsorship amenities are accounted for, included the signage, or if you have any staff members doing a stage shout out, make sure you stay organized and you do what you said you would so that you don't lose any of those sponsors. Have a staff member or volunteer dedicated to picking up last minute supplies. I don't know how many times people run out of ice, but you're gonna need a backup, and you're gonna need a volunteer dedicated to go getting, whether that's for beverages, like I said, ice, or additional food. Make sure that you have someone dedicated that and that you can activate them when you need them. Another major tip here is make sure that you're actually networking at your own event and that you're stewarding your major donors. All of these individuals have come to help your mission, and you want to make sure that you are getting out there and you're greeting all of them. And one tip here on the major donors, make sure that you identify your major donors so you know exactly who you need to go say hello to, and you can chat with them and start that stewardship process. They're here to support you, remember that. So make sure to thank them. And one big note, you're not going to be able to plan for everything. As long as you account for the things that you know, just handle the things that come up as they go. You're not going to be able to account for everything, but with proper planning, it will be very smooth when those things do pop up. Some tips to help you raise more money at your event. So not all organizations run fundraising appeals during their event, but if you decide that you do, here are a few tips to help you raise additional funds for your organization. So one thing that you can do is ask a beneficiary to speak on behalf of your organization. And if this is not possible, asking a board member or a long-term donor to come up and speak on behalf of your mission and all of the things that you do to drive the benefit in your community. You want someone that has the ability to speak on all of the great things that you do. And in case that this is not possible, Maybe the beneficiary is afraid of speaking on site, or maybe a board member, same thing, a board member can't attend or a donor can't attend. A video is a very good backup. So make sure that you have something for that. Make sure that you celebrate fundraising milestones throughout the event as well. So if you hit 25% of your goal, 50% of your goal, make sure that you're celebrating those milestones and encourage donors to continue giving to your organization so that you can reach your fundraising goal. And tools like text fundraising and live screencasts make this really easy to promote the fundraising appeal, as well as make it easy for donors to give when they are on site. And great tools to check out. Step 5. What do we do after our event? So we talked about it a lot, thanking your donors, but what should you say in your post-event communications to make sure that you're wrapping up your event properly? We're focusing on retention, but you want to keep the momentum going by sending out those thank you notes. And you're going to want to send it to both those that attended and those that worked very hard to get your event to where it was. So this includes your committee and all of your volunteers that helped out and your staff members. Don't forget them. Send thank you notes to your attendees. You can do this by separating out the communication to donors that registered versus those that didn't. So something that I want to bring up here is that if you do send out these communications to those that did attend, but you also want to send out a communication to those that didn't even register, a great way to do this is to provide a conclusion to your event. How much did you raise? What were the important themes of the night? What the attendance numbers are, and you can then tie that back to your mission and what was accomplished with what can be accomplished with all of the money that you just raised. So this might encourage those that didn't attend to give money to your organization. So things to think about when you're doing that. And of course, thank your staff, your volunteers, and your sponsors. And one thing that I do recommend here, set up an event committee meeting for a post-event analysis so that you can analyze everything that happened at your event, and you can make sure to document any failure points or any emergencies that might have popped up during the event so that you can plan on for future events. Event fundraising tools. So before we get to our questions, we're wrapping up here. QGive can help you with all of your event fundraising needs. So no matter what type of event that you're hosting, QGive can help you in every step of the way. So whether you're wanted to just accept registrations online, we just launched our brand new event registration tools with beautiful branded landing pages. I highly suggest you check them out. They're fantastic, very easy to use with a WYSIWYG. If you want to empower your donors to raise funds on behalf of your organization, we also have peer-to-peer fundraising tools that provide not only you the tools necessary to reach out and engage with your network, but it also provides tools for your participants as well to reach out to their networks too. So check out our peer-to-peer fundraising tools, and if you have an auction event as well, you can create your auction event and manage it all through QGive's auction app. When we were talking about running those fundraising appeals live on site, we actually have those tools to help you raise that money on site at your event. So you can highlight your event progress on site and accept donations with our customizable fundraising thermometers. You can show the progress of your event, celebrate the milestones as you hit them, and make sure that everyone that does donate to your organization stays highly visible. You can accept payments on site through our virtual terminal, or you can use our text fundraising tools where you can accept pledges and actually create a live screencast on site with your campaign thermometers, all through our text fundraising package. You are at the center of everything that we do here, and we look to help you succeed. What's included with all of our packages here with QGive, including our free starter package, personal one-on-one customer support at no extra cost. You have the ability to explore hundreds of our free webinars, ebooks, blog articles, and other fundraising tools. You'll have access to a help desk as well as the newly launched QGive user community. And you are part of our development process. Our clients guide our platform development, which means your feedback is heard and incorporated to our system.